everyone. Welcome to our career speaker series. Thank you for, being here today. My name is Kim Lin. I am a college success advisor here at Fulfillment Fund. I am so excited to introduce you to our amazing speaker for today. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome and thank you, Jane, for being here with us today.
Hello.
A little bit about Jane. Jane is a senior talent acquisition leader. She serves as a vice president of recruiting and employment at WedBush Securities, where she spearheads HR strategy and leads team responsibility for the talent acquisition, headcount planning, and talent onboarding. Also, Jane earned her master's of business administration from Pepperdine University and a bachelor's in finance from Cal State University, Fullerton. Welcome, Jane. Thank you so much. I know I said a little bit, but can you share a little bit about yourself, your background, and what are you currently doing?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kim. And I am glad to be able to speak with all of you guys today. I encourage all of you to ask questions. This is a perfect time to learn about careers. And where can you find a better place than human resources to learn about careers? So today I'm going to be speaking with you guys about human resources. But before I jump into all of that good stuff, I want to introduce myself a little bit and tell you kind of how I got into this field. So my name is Jane. I've moved to United States when I was 13 years old. I am originally from Kazakhstan, so I'm also a first generation in the United States. And my whole entire family has always been in finance. So naturally, when I graduated from high school, since I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, I decided that I am going to get into finance. So I got my degree in finance from Cal State Fullerton. And as most of the finance graduates, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. And I kind of knew a little bit about finance, a little bit about what my dad does, what my sister does, but I didn't know where I saw myself. So I decided to try it out, and I got an internship for working for a financial advisor. And when I got that internship working for a financial advisor, I realized I never wanted to do what he does. That was a stressful job. That wasn't something that was aligned with my personality, my skill set. And I decided, since I have no idea what I wanted to do, I continued to do internships, and I went and I got my MBA, and I continued to try out different things. And then at the end of my MBA, I was still not 100% sure what I wanted to do. So I decided that I'm going to go speak with the recruiter. And when I spoke with the recruiter, he asked me a few core questions. What do you think you're good at? What type of a company do you want to work with? What do you think you excel at? So I gave him a lot of adjectives about myself. I told him that I am very much of a people person. I love interaction. I love numbers, but I don't want to be crunching numbers all day long like an analyst. So he asked me if I wanted a job as a recruiter. And that was my first entry into recruiting. And I know nobody ever graduates from school saying, hey, I want to grow up and be a recruiter. That's not one of those fancy careers that people think about. But I decided I'll give it a try. I had nothing to lose. And that was the best decision of my life. And I realized that this is my passion. This is my calling. I am great at it. It took me a while to learn from my mistakes, but that's how I got into recruiting. So I spent the first 7 years of my career working on the agency side, supporting companies and helping companies find talent. And then I got recruited into one of the companies that I was helping. And now I work for WedBush Securities. And at WedBush is a financial services firm. So I did end up in finance. I'm just not actually doing finance. And in financial services firm, I started out as a recruiter, and then I became a recruiting manager. And now I am the vice president of recruiting and employment. And like Kim already mentioned, I oversee all of the talent acquisition and talent attraction. I oversee all of the onboarding, and I also drive HR strategy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jane. I love that you touched upon kind of coming in with a major, not really knowing what to do. And, having those internship opportunities really kind of helped you solidify, maybe this isn't really for me. And then another door opens for you. And that really helped you figure out, this is actually what I wanted to do. So I loved you sharing that and a little bit of your background and how you got to where you are today. So you mentioned a little bit about your organization and what you do, but I'm curious to see, can you walk me through kind of day to day what that looks like, as an HR, as a talent acquisition leader? What specifically does that look like?
Okay. I'll speak on the talent acquisition because that is my bread and butter. But then I would like to take a step back and also tell you guys about different facets of HR, because HR, everybody thinks they know HR, but once you start diving deep, HR has so many different components and every component is very different from one another. But as a talent acquisition leader, my job is to ensure that we attract candidates into the company. So what me and my team do is we work with hiring managers to determine what are the needs for the company. So for example, if we find out there's a position that's open, let's say it's an accountant position, then we work with the hiring manager to help them with the job descriptions. Once we put together the job description, we post that job description externally, so that way we can start attracting candidates. Once we start getting candidates, we interview the candidates, we screen them, we assess if they're the right fit for the position and the right fit for the company, and then we help coordination of the interviews with the hiring managers. Once they identified the right candidates, at that point, we work on putting together offer letters. Once the offer letter is signed, we do due diligence and background checks. And then once all of that is done, we hire the candidate. So we help with the onboarding piece. Once we onboard the candidate, that's kind of where our job ends. So on a day-to-day basis, we I typically interview 5 to 7 candidates per day. I speak with hiring managers. I am on the phone. I am on the email. I have to be an incredible multitasker because I have different recs that I'm working on. I have tons of different screens that are open. I'm actually looking at 3 screens right now, and I have to keep track of everything that's going on. And at any point given point of time, our team, typically my senior recruiters, would carry about 20 to 30 different requisitions. That means they're concurrently trying to fill 20 to 30 different roles. So that's a little bit about my day-to-day. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, no questions.
Yeah, so feel free at any time today, feel free to ask questions in our chat, or you can either also private chat me as well. Thank you, Jan, for, explaining a little bit more about your day-to-day position. Sounds like you're constantly, there's always something to do, and, you definitely have to multitask and, use your soft skills, right? Use your personal skills in this type of role. So thank you so much for sharing about that. I know you wanted to mention a little bit about the HR side of it, so I would love to kind of hear, and you can share the students a little bit more about, HR and what that really entails.
Absolutely. And if you guys don't mind, I will screen share with you guys, and let me know if you could see my screen. Are you guys able to see the core HR function screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I put this together, and this is kind of a little bit of information what HR is all about. So the Human Resources Department is a department within the organization that is designed to serve the employees while protecting the company. So it's it has a dual role. So it's responsible for administering things like benefits and compensation and various programs for the employees while protecting the company. And what all of that means, I'll break it down into a few different sections. So first, we'll take a look at talent acquisition and onboarding. That is my world that I live in. So talent acquisition is part of the talent attraction. We are attracting candidates to apply to our company. And within that, we are screening them, we are interviewing them, we are negotiating, we're extending offers. And then at the end of the day, once all of that's said and done, we're onboarding the candidates into the company. Once the onboarding is done, then that candidate goes through an employment life cycle. And what that means is that employee starts living the WedBush life or the company life. And during that time, they get promoted. So that next section, talent development and training. This is the department that deals with everything that happens to a candidate from the time that they enter the company to the time that they exit the company. They get trained, they get promoted, they get, moving into different positions, not necessarily as a promotional, but as a lateral move. That area deals with that. And an individual working in that area would typically be learning and development specialist. So somebody like a trainer who's going to teach whether it's soft skills, hard skills, or anything else to the individual to make them be equitable and to make him be promotable. Then we move into policy change and change management. So another section of human resources is policy. We have to create policies that would govern the entire company. And we create policies on everything. We have things like, for example, how do you process expense reimbursements? How do you deal with vacations? How do you deal with compensation? Every single process within human resources has a policy attached to it. And it's a written document that basically describes the step-by-step of what needs to get done and eligibility for each individual within each policy. And then once those policies get implemented, let's say we're implementing a brand new policy that has to do with vacation, then we would have to communicate that throughout the entire organization and implement change. And one of the examples that I can give of the policy that I was very intimately involved was performance management. So part of being an employee within an organization, you have to go through a yearly evaluations. It's kind of like you guys get grades in school. We get graded at work as well. And we get told how we are doing, what goals we have for next year, and what do we have to do in order to keep up with the work that we have and move on to the next level. So that process is called performance management. So I helped implement performance management at WedBush, and when we were implementing that, it influenced the entire population, and that's called change management. So I was intimately involved with working with our executives and ensuring that this process is adopted, that this process is accepted and embraced throughout the entire organization. Now we're going to move to employee relations. So again, as you go through an employee life cycle, employees deal with issues, with problems, with conflicts, or anything else that needs to be addressed. And the employee relations department typically handles that. For example, let's say you got hurt at work. What are you going to do? So the best thing you could do is go to the employee relations department, and they will help you resolve that. They will connect you to the right individuals. They'll tell you how to process it through the medical insurance. They'll help you ensure that your work is taken care of while you're staying home and taking care of your health. The employee relations department typically deals with things like conflicts between employees, conflicts between management and employees, and anything else that happens during the employee life cycle. The next section is compensation and benefits. So this is my favorite section because it's really geared towards employees. So these two departments, we actually have two departments in our company, but sometimes they're part of one department. But compensation, it's very self-explanatory. How do you get raises? How do you get merit increases? How do you get salary adjustments? How do you get paid incentives? All of that is handled by our compensation department. And then all of those numbers are fed into the payroll department. And the benefits department is responsible for all of the benefits administration. And what that means is when you will get your first job, your company will give you some sort of benefits. And those benefits may include medical benefits, dental benefits, vision benefits, vacation benefits, and maybe some other perks as well. The benefits department is responsible for administering all of that, negotiating the rates, and making sure that everything gets rolled out smoothly. If somebody wants to become a benefits professional, that job requires an extremely analytical skill set. So if you feel like you're not like me and a people person, but more analytical person and want to work like, let's say, on Excel and spreadsheets, benefits career is an amazing career path. And then finally, we get into HR systems, and another area of HR that nobody thinks about. So HR has its own system. We call it HRIS. And this is a technical role, so almost like information technology. And the HRIS analysts are typically programmers, kind of like IT programmers, where they develop and maintain and administer systems that everything works on. So we work on pretty large systems, and we have a team of 4 that simply works on administering and make sure that our systems are staying secure, ensuring that we pass all of the audits, ensuring that everybody has right access, and ensuring that our systems are configured. So for example, if we want to add new process to the system, like performance management, I can call my HRIS team and say, hey guys, I want to implement this new process. Can you develop it for me? And they create user interfaces, they create processes, they create programs, and they ensure that everything runs smoothly on the back end. So now that we've done the complete circle, I'm going to stop screen sharing. And I know I've downloaded a lot of different information into you guys right now. And some of this information may sound like foreign language, and I completely understand. So if you guys want, I'll be more than happy to provide any additional details about human resources.
Yeah, definitely, Jane. I think you did a really good job talking about the different sections of HR. I think people think specifically about, the hiring process of it, but people don't think about the tech side of it or, the policy side of it all. So I think that's really great that you're able to touch on different sections. I did have a student who did have a question, so I'd love for us to answer this question. The question is, what are the odds that candidates get onboarded to the company, and what can people do to make those odds better?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think what you're asking is, how can you make your odds better to get hired into the company? And what I would say is, number one is, if you are applying for a job description, you have to read the job description and make sure that your resume reflects that job description. Because if your resume states that you want to be an accountant, but you are applying to a HR position, then there is a disconnect. So what I would recommend is, when you are developing your resume, sometimes it's helpful to develop multiple versions of your resume. You need to make sure that your resume is concise to one page, because you don't have any skills and experiences at this point. You need to make sure that somebody proofreads your resume besides you, because sometimes it's very difficult to see your own errors. Once you submit your resume, once you identify the job and then submit your resume, it's important that you also follow up. And I know a lot of people don't think of this step. And a lot of people just keep on submitting resumes and waiting for something to happen. And sometimes it could happen, but if you truly want to ensure that you are seen, you may want to reach out to the recruiter. The easiest way to do that is through LinkedIn. I can guarantee that every single recruiter is on LinkedIn. And if you guys don't know what LinkedIn is, I think you guys should look it up, because it's never too early to start developing your LinkedIn profile. And LinkedIn profile is your professional page, kind of similar to the way you have other social media, like your Instagram page and Facebook. I don't know if anybody uses Facebook anymore, and Snapchats, but you develop your own page, but it's specifically designed for your professional self. You don't want to put your family pictures in there. You don't want to put your dogs in there. It's just really developed for you and for your professional networking, which will happen a little bit later in your career. But as you're going through school, as you're going through college, you want to continuously enhance your LinkedIn profile, add connections, and try to do research. You can research various jobs. You can research various companies. And you can definitely find recruiters at those companies that you are applying to. So if you go on LinkedIn and say a recruiter at Amazon, I can guarantee you get probably like 60,000 different hits of their different recruiters in Amazon. And you can start reaching out to them and introducing and letting them know that you applied for a job. So that's my little answer. But if you guys need interview practice or anything like this, I know Fulfillment Fund does an amazing job preparing you guys for the future. And I can always make myself available. So any of you guys want to reach out to me, please feel free to reach out to me directly as well.
Thank you, Jane. I think you touched upon really great advice and about the recruitment process, and the resume aspect and LinkedIn are also very important, very relevant. I know you touched upon, talking about an internship and figuring out that not being really right for you. So I'm kind of curious. I know you talked about when you realized, but how did you discover, like, this is really what I wanted to do, and like, what made you specifically go into this field?
On accident. I was lucky that I discovered it on accident. And when I was speaking with the recruiter, he offered me the position on the spot, saying, "Hey, come work and become a recruiter." And it was a difficult decision for me to make because I was like, I just got my MBA. I'm supposed to be in finance. What do you mean become a recruiter? But I joined at a really good time because recruiting was hot at the time. And I just picked up the phone and learned. And I actually joined recruiting way before LinkedIn happened, which was a lot of picking up the phone and making phone calls. And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't shy. I loved talking to people. I loved interviewing people. And as I continued to develop my skills, I realized that I'm really good at it. I'm really good at screening individuals, assessing their skill set, realizing what types of jobs they're good for, and sometimes having to convince them that they're applying for the wrong job. And I've worked with candidates where they're applying for an accountant job, but that was like, no, that's you don't have the right personality for an accountant. You will be better as a financial analyst. You will be better as a, it's something to do with strategy and development. So when I became great at that, I realized that is my calling. This is what I love to do. And thankfully I've been lucky to be successful in it and never had to regret that this is the career path that I joined. However, I've also hired and trained recruiters in my job right now. I've hired people under me and I've trained them to become a recruiter, only to realize that that's not their calling. That's not something they wanted to do. And it's okay. You try it out, you give it your best. And if you're good at it, if that's your passion, you continue working very hard at it. If you're not great at it, don't be afraid to switch to something else. And actually, the recruiter that I hired, we placed her in a different area of the firm, and she's so incredibly successful right now. And she couldn't be more thankful that we kind of repositioned her career path into something she never thought of doing.
I love that your role in some ways is like a career, like advising in some way of like looking at their resume, telling them, you know what, I think this is a direction that that I actually feel would be, best with your skill and asset and everything. So I love that it combines all those different things within your role. I know you mentioned a lot of things that you really enjoyed about your job, and I'm curious to see, what are some challenges that you face and how do you work through those challenges?
Absolutely. One of the biggest challenge that I face is people. I love people and I love interacting with people, but people are unpredictable. And sometimes you get disappointed because you find out maybe a candidate was dishonest with you, or maybe they ghosted you and you feel like you've been stood up. And it happens. It truly does happen. So another career advice that I can give you guys, hey, if you are committing to an interview, if you're committing to a conversation, even if you lost interest, make sure you communicate that you lost interest, or better yet, go through the interview process because it's an amazing practice, even if you never want to take this job. The more interviews you take, the more practice you get, the better you'll become at it. And the other challenges that I face is I feel like my job requires me to be so incredibly detail oriented and be great at multitasking that if you miss a step, the entire process will crumble. So being able to keep up with your task list, your schedules, your calendar, your emails, and staying on top of that is an incredible challenge that I face every single day. And I see the 5 minutes mark, and I also see a question you guys asked. And there's a student question, how long should a resume really be? Again, a resume at your guys' age should not be longer than a page. And in fact, if you don't know what to fill your resume with, it's a good problem to have at your age, not down the road. So your resume should contain sections. What is your career objective? And you can write it in the form of a summary or in the form of objective. Another section that's really important, your educational background. And since you don't have a whole lot of experience, concentrate on that educational background and ensure that you are putting in, hey, here's the relevant classes that I've taken. So you're not just putting like, this is the school, this is the year that I graduated, and this is what I studied. Put the relevant courses that you've taken, relevant projects that you worked on that you're proud about. Brag about all of that on your resume. Then you will have a section for your professional experience. And as a new grad, you're probably not going to have a lot of professional experience. So you will want to put any type of internships that you've had or will have in the future. Count that as your professional experience. Any projects that you work that have transferable skills, you can also count as your professional experience. Then you want to have a section for extracurricular activities, and that section should be filled with your volunteer experience, any other projects that you're working on, and anything else that you're doing that is outside school and work. And also any skills that you guys have, brag about those. If you are excellent at Excel, mention it. If you're great at any other skills, please specify that on your resume.
Yes, definitely really great advice. One page is definitely the go-to. I know we're coming close to time, but I do want to ask you one more question, Jane. For high school students and middle school students that are currently on here right now, and if they're interested in HR, where would you suggest they begin? And what would that look like for them?
You could study human resources at school. There's actually human resources major. And other majors that are transferable are communications, psychology majors. Obviously, if you want to work for a finance company, finance major, it was great for me. And then as a entry level, you would start either as a recruiting assistant, administrative assistant within an HR department, HR assistant, HR coordinator, HRIS assistant. So those are lower level positions. And those positions are typically, they get paid kind of like an average entry level position, depending on the type of a company that you enter. You can get paid anywhere between 50,000 to 70,000 for an entry level job, depending on what you want and what you will be doing. Typically, any jobs that are more technical, like IT, HRIS analyst types jobs, they would typically pay a little bit more. If you're entering a job as a recruiter, you can enter a job through an agency site like I did, and then you work on commissions, which is great if you are excellent at sales, but it's not so great if you're not so good at sales. So I was able to make over 100K in my first year because I was excellent at sales. So it was definitely a lucrative career right in the beginning. It's much harder to make that kind of money in the corporate setting upfront, but in the long run, corporate setting will give you more return on your investment.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jane, for sharing that with our students today.
Thank you, guys.